Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name is Pete and this is a 5-minute Bags of Action review of The Karate Kid Part 2 from 1986. 2 years on from the success of the first film, which was a big sleeper hit, they've made this sequel. So what happens to Daniel this time? Daniel accompanies his mentor, Mr. Miyagi, to Miyagi's childhood home in Okinawa. Miyagi visits his dying father and confronts his old rival, while Daniel falls in love and inadvertently makes a new rival of his own. So once again, it's the same team behind the camera. It's directed by John G. Avildsen, who did the first film and is also very well known for Rocky. And it was written by Robert Mark Kamen, who did the first Karate Kid film and also has gone on to do things like The Transporter, Taken, Columbiana, and most recently, Angel Has Fallen. The main two stars return, Ralph Macchio as Daniel and Pat Morita as Mr. Miyagi. You get a very brief glimpse of Martin Kove, who played Kreese, and William Zabka, who is Johnny, but you don't get to see Elizabeth Shue, and Daniel's mother doesn't return either. They both are mentioned off camera, but they don't actually appear in the movie. So as we're off to an island off of Japan, you get some new cast members. You get Tamlyn Tomita. She was making her acting debut in this film as the love interest, and she's gone into in loads of things, TV shows like Glee and Heroes, and also the movie Tekken. Danny Kamekona is in this film, and I remember him from a film I liked in the 80s called Robot Jocks, and the rival for Daniel's rival Chozen is played by Yuji Okimoto, who has been in loads of things. Was the thing I last remember him in, I guess, was Inception, which is like 10 years ago now, I guess. So I think this is either the second or maybe only the third time I've seen this. So I've seen the first film quite a lot more times. What struck me is it felt like they'd written one perfect movie, and then when it was successful and they had to do more, they almost had to kind of retcon, almost kind of re-engineer some of the backstory, particularly for Mr. Miyagi, because in the first film you find out about his wife and child. They died while she was giving birth, but now you find out about his love interest from before that, which it doesn't quite make sense to me. But anyway, so the film starts with scenes from the previous film in montage, which reminded me a lot of how the Rocky sequels tended to work, which makes sense with the same director. And it picks up straight afterwards, rather than any kind of time jump. They're walking out of the building where the tournament took place. And there's a small scene there which kind of, I think, at the time was probably a way of closing off Johnny and Kreese's storyline. And again, so you hear about Ali and you hear about his mother off camera, which is all a bit convenient, to be honest. But then it does start to give you more backstory as it jumps forward 6 months in time. And it gives you a reason for Miyagi and Daniel's son to go off to Okinawa. It's all a little bit contrived by this point, but I guess what it does do is it moves all the other characters out of the way and brings it much more about how Miyagi is like a surrogate father for Daniel's son. And you find out in this film that Daniel actually lost his own father, which wasn't revealed in the first film. We didn't actually know where his father was. So there's not actually that much karate in this, considering the title. The life or death stakes between Miyagi and his old rival Sato, and things like there's a protection racket going on, just kind of makes the film very full on. When you think that the first film is like a high school drama about a karate tournament and some bullies, this feels a lot darker in its own way. The relationship between Daniel and Mr. Miyagi is what helps it rise above some of those moments, though. And Pat Morita's dialogue is delivered perfectly throughout the film, and his one-liners are kind of what makes it sing. They're trying really hard here, I think, to, on one hand, make the films seem similar to the other. So there's some bullies, there's a girl that he's interested in again, but also very different, putting it in a completely different place, making it much more about Miyagi's story. So they're trying to be similar and different at the same time, and they get kind of stuck in the middle. The most frustrating thing for me compared to the first film is they up the ante so much, because it is about life or death stakes in this movie, that you almost think, like, again, from watching Cobra Kai, the defining moment in Daniel's life was winning that karate tournament. He'd gone to a new town, he overcame the odds, and he turned things around. But here he's been to Japan, he's saved someone in a torrential storm, and he's fought someone, which could have been to the death. And it feels much different. And it almost feels like if you were looking back in your life, this second movie would be what you'd remember the most, not the first one, which feels a little bit out of kilter with the overall franchise. So, yeah, with that in mind, it was a difficult watch in a way. Certainly I didn't enjoy it as much as the first movie, even on repeat viewing. So with all that considered, I'm going to give The Karate Kid Part 2 3 bags of action out of 5. So compared to 5, which I gave the first movie. And one of those bags, to be honest, is built on goodwill from the first movie and those 2 central main characters. That's what scrapes a 3 for me. But it's a weaker sequel to me. But I'd be interested to revisit the 3rd and 4th movies to see how they compare. So, have you seen The Karate Kid Part 2? Do you agree with my assessment of it? Feel free to comment below or get in touch with us via email, Facebook, or on Twitter. We have new episodes coming out weekly alongside our full-length podcast, usually me and my co-host. And don't forget to give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications. Bags of Action will always be free, but if you'd like to buy us a coffee, you can do so at our Ko-fi page.